The guest in the following episode will be speaking about their own experiences, but is not a trained medical professional. Please do not take what is said in this episode as medical advice.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
You're welcome to another episode of Selfish Podcast. And today I will be discussing with a very good friend of mine. She is Estonian, Turk, Azerbaijani, and Georgian, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting.
You're welcome. So hopefully we'll have a very nice and insightful conversation.
Yeah, of course.
So I have a question, and that's the topic. The question is, do we have control over our happiness? Is happiness a choice? But before we dive into the question or the topic of today's conversation, would you be okay with introducing yourself?
Yes, of course. Shortly about me. I'm Aybike, 29 years old from Estonia. As he mentioned as well, I have a different kind of a mixed background. I grew up in different kinds of cultures, which has helped me in life a lot and which led me to anthropology eventually. And now I turned into design. Now I'm a UX UI designer. So yeah.
Nice. I was going to ask a question about anthropology. So what exactly do you do?
That's my favorite question because it's very difficult to answer with one question, one answer. But anthropology is inherently understanding people, society, and the environment that they live in, the culture that they grew up in. Just anthropology is everywhere where you exist.
So is it more of like a social study?
Yes, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah.
So why did you move away from anthropology to? Because I know you're really passionate about UI UX design.
Yes, that's a good point because a lot of people don't realize that UX is anthropology.
Hmm.
Because you study people. You try to understand how people engage with certain products or, let's say, a service. You try to make it better for the person who uses it. And if you're able to understand the human mind, the environment that they grew up in, the social, the factors and everything, you put it all together, and that's anthropology. And that in itself made me realize that while I love research and understanding humans, I also love art. And I combine both of my strong skills together.
Nice. So by designing, you make art.
Yes.
So my first question to you, relating to the topic,
Mm-hmm.
is when you think about happiness. So at what point in your life did it first come to you that this is a thing? Like, yes, happiness is a thing.
I think for me, it was a little bit late in life.
Mm.
I wouldn't say the life that I had was easy. And to understand what happiness is, I started understanding what it meant in different contexts. Because for me, happiness could be momentary, it could be a serotonin boost, or it could be something long lasting. And I think my way of realizing it was through the outside world, through the people that I experienced it, the life that they showed me. And I realized that this is happiness, something that I didn't grow up with, and I could learn it from the outside world.
Oh,
Yeah.
so this was like at what point of your life?
I think the moment I started making real friendships, and I think teenager, um, I realized that for me it was quite easy to make friends. But I have to say, the first best friend that I had really taught me what happiness is. Their way of seeing me, their way of reflecting back what I've given them was happiness.
Mhm. So are you insinuating that like before teenage, an individual might not really understand the concept of happiness.
No, definitely not. I don't think it's that black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's dependable, like on the situation and how the person has grown up. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have experienced happiness way before when they were like 5 years old, 8 years old, experiencing the world around them and just getting that maybe that toy or something that they wanted before. But for me, my brain developed differently.
Mm.
And for me, that was the first glimpse of happiness because internally there wasn't much to find. So externally, I could easily see it. Yeah.
Mm. From the last statement you made, so I can draw a conclusion. Is it safe for me to draw a conclusion that to feel happiness, the feeling of being happy, it needs to be connected to something, perhaps an event or connection with someone else or relationship with someone else, as the case may be?
I think happiness in itself, as I said, like it needs to be defined by you what happiness is. And it can be tied to an external thing. But I believe now that I'm at the um, peak age of 29, for me, happiness is now different. Like, for me, happiness is by helping people, by providing to people, by making a positive change in this world or in someone's life. That's happiness for me. But I think happiness in itself can change over time, the way you view it. Some people might tie it to external factors for a very long time, which was my case in the beginning. And then I started internalizing it by saying, like, if this person is happy, I'm happy.
Mm.
So that was that kind of a part for me
Initially.
later in life. Let's say when I started becoming 20, I started realizing that happiness for me isn't tied to how someone else makes me feel, but rather how I make them feel. Yeah.
So how you make them feel makes you happy.
If I manage to make someone's day better, if I manage to take their pain away, that's happiness for me.
So in the case that you're not able to make someone stay better, you're not able to move someone from a positive or from a point to the next positive point, does it mean you won't be happy?
No, I will still be happy in other ways that
Mm.
I will find. Again, like, let's say this past month, this March, has been quite eventful. I turned 29.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I realized a very important thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is mm, that I need to forgive people.
Mm.
And that in itself was happiness for me. That realization was happiness for me. For example, I just recently got a contract in UX UI design,
Mm-hmm.
and the proud moment that came from it,
Mm.
that was happiness. Like, the word itself doesn't ever just come to me. It's always tied to a different kind of an emotion or like a feeling or something. The happiness in itself, I think, is an umbrella term, and it's not just I'm happy, but what goes under it.
So the events
Mhm.
matters.
Yes,
The relationships matters as well.
of course, of course. I think the more positive things you experience in life, the happier you will get eventually. But we can't be that black and white because I know, like, whilst experiencing those things, that happiness is in long term because internally there's still something that I need to heal from. So to make it long term, I need to heal some parts of myself. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I I was gonna ask what's your concept of happiness, but I think from the way you answered your questions, I kind of understand your definition of happiness and what it means to you. Um, but I have a follow up question, and the question is: in the absence of happiness in one's life, what fills that gap?
People who aren't happy with their life doesn't necessarily mean that they're sad with their life or like if they're depressed.
Mm.
There might be something else to it. Maybe they are bored with their life. Maybe they need motivation. Maybe there's something lacking, but necessarily I wouldn't say the opposite of happiness is being so depressed that you don't enjoy life. I think there are ways to enjoy life even if you don't feel that happiness moment.
So, do you have like a practical example, maybe relating to you, to explain this better?
Um, in my case, I can't because I do have clinical depression. That's why it's not applicable to me. But in other people's lives, I've noticed that when they don't feel happy, they just feel lack of something. And the lack of something could be more moments with other people, like bonding with other people, special occasions, or feeling included. But necessarily, it doesn't make them sad. It just makes them feel maybe empty. Maybe it makes them feel um, worthless. But it doesn't perhaps mean that they're so sick and tired of their life. But it's a good point that if you lack happiness, what's the opposite? And
What fills that space?
yeah, would you be able to answer to that?
I'm not sure.
It's difficult because it's not one dimensional, so it takes into account a lot of differences in people's lives and
Hmm. You mentioned earlier that you were clinically depressed.
Mhm.
So, what does this mean?
Well, there are different ways that one can be depressed. There's seasonal depression that is very common in Nordic countries, in Estonia as well. During the dark times, people don't get the sun, like the season changes into a more depressive time. Then there's clinically depressed person. Then I can't remember what it was, but it was more like a specific type of an event that leads to feeling depressed. It could be getting fired from your job or something very specific that happened. So,
And doesn't go away, right?
um, if you can't heal it, if you can't focus on it at the right time, then it becomes severe and it translates into many issues in later life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can say people like that are clinically depressed.
Uh, they can't self-diagnose. They need to be diagnosed by some professional. But yeah, if you have severe symptoms that lead you to severe situations, then yeah.
So, what's the feeling like? Is there a feeling of anhedonia, or I don't understand? Like, if does one feel unhappy?
That's the interesting part
Hmm?
because the happiness that some clinically, again, it's very individual. Some clinically depressed people might feel just tied to what they haven't experienced in life, safety, peace, these kinds of things. So once they receive that kind of a like an environment where they can feel safe or like feel peace, then that could translate into happiness, for example. But I would say clinically depressed people, there are more like empathy is there, but apathy can come as well. Apathy is very strong in those moments when depression hits very, very deep, that you're not able to, you're numb. You're numb to your emotions, to your environment. And it's difficult to process positive emotions, even if your environment is surrounded by it. But what eventually will lead someone to happiness when they're clinically depressed is by healing their trauma, by going over their trauma with different positive experiences, like rewriting those experiences with a different narrative. And that will eventually lead to a fraction or some big part of like happiness moment. Yeah.
So the presence of depression doesn't mean that there's no happiness.
No, I would have to say, like, when you're depressed, you're able to feel happy. It's really up to your way of thinking. I know a lot of depressed people
Hmm.
who, like, they're not doing this on purpose, but it's the way they wired their brain to just feel negative all the time. But there are a lot of people who are able to be depressed, accept depression as a friend, not as a foe, and then work on it and still feel happiness. For example, yesterday, my lowest low came,
Hmm.
but today I came to Tallinn.
Yeah.
I met up with you and my friend, and it gave me hope. It gave me a good feeling, and I'm choosing that over staying in that negative loop. And it's a choice in itself, actually. But if you're not able to put yourself in that position where you can choose, then it's difficult to feel that happiness.
Hmm. Thank you for coming down here again. I didn't know that you might probably wouldn't have come here anymore because of what you felt yesterday, but still you chose to be here today. Thank you so much. We appreciate it a lot. So I was gonna ask, like, in hindsight, can one prevent depression from hitting, like from happening? From Can you present yourself from going into the state of depression?
I think no, because depression is something that you can't control. A lot of things can happen in your life, events that you can't foresee. And that's why you're not able to, I guess, predict or prevent depression because our minds is very different. For example, if you grow up in one family, same experiences, same trauma, one might end up depressed and the other person might not. It's all because of our brains and how it is wired differently. One event might lead someone to depression and the other nowhere near it. They might be not even phased about it. They don't even care about it that much. And that's why I think it's very difficult to say that we can prevent depression. We never know what can hit us in life. So, yeah.
Okay, I think I know the reason why I'm kind of this low because before now, I will tell you, I've said it before, but I don't think I can say it anymore that I know people say they are depressed, but I really don't believe
Mm.
depression. And I don't think I can be depressed. And I used to say this in the past, but this is the first time I'm talking to someone who is like depressed, for example, clinically depressed, and I can feel it. Like when I say I can feel it, like I can feel that this feeling is real. It can be real. It just hasn't happened to you.
Mm.
So yeah, and this is a very big mind shift for me. Yeah, and well, maybe I'm grateful that I experienced this or that I'm having this talk, and it's going to help me with the way I relate with people
I'm glad. I'm
because
glad.
I'm always of the opinion that you can get yourself to be happy. I think I have a very mathematical brain to say that if you add this plus this, you should get this. So when you're feeling sad, you just need to sit down, think this certain way, and snap yourself out of it. So that's the way I think up till this moment. Like I just believe and this is a phase. For example, if I feel sad about something, fine, I understand that sadness is a feeling, and I know that I can feel it, and I felt it in the past, and I believe it's just part of life that you can't be you can be high there always. Sometimes the energy is low, sometimes things don't go your way. So just wait till things go your way, or just like enjoy the process, or enjoy the situation, and then you'll be happy later or some. So that's the way my brain works. But still, I'll ask what you feel about, do you think we're in control of our happiness?
Before we get into that question,
Mm.
one thing that you mentioned really stood out, and that was specifically how you can snap out of it. Because also that thing that if it hasn't happened to you, you're not able to empathize with it that deeply. And that's the case with a lot of things in life. If you haven't experienced what it is, your narrative of it seems to come from your experience, which is quite, as you said, mathematical.
Mm.
Like it, it needs to be like logical.
Yeah.
But when it comes to depression, it has zero logic. One day you might wake up, like, I will just give an example.
Hmm.
2 days ago, I woke up to amazing dream. I felt so happy. 10 minutes later, my body felt frozen. It started having kind of uh, fight or flight moment. Um, and I didn't realize where it came from. But our bodies carry a lot of trauma, of course, and anything can trigger it without even us realizing it. So in that moment, I didn't know if I should continue with this emotion
Hmm.
or should I just get out of my bed. I did get out of my bed, and I still felt bad. I still felt something is wrong. And instead of just allowing myself to feel fake happiness or something, I decided to wallow in that feeling and allow myself to be vulnerable because I had suppressed a lot of emotions. And that also led to that feeling being more intense. And we can't just like snap out of it. And as you said, like before, you felt like it's it's easy like an equation, but also
In reality,
yeah, mathematics isn't easy for my brain at all. So it feels like it's kind of same, not at all easy. So
it's like you just confirmed what I used to believe. For example, honestly speaking, I have made myself cry before. Like, I just want to cry. And when I cry the tears out, I'll be fine. So I felt this level of like satisfaction after I'd cried. How on earth will like lose someone I love so much, and I am just fine? I need to cry. I need to feel bad. I need to stay away from other people. And then we start to live in this realization, like you intentionally put yourself in those conditions. So I don't know if this ideology of mine is correct. And you just said it now that, for example, you stood up, you were able to stand up, but then you intentionally gave in to be vulnerable.
I think I've had, thankfully, to my therapist and everything, I've come to that point now where I can choose to get up. But there have been multiple moments where my body is stuck. It's stuck. It's unable. It's like in frozen mode. And what you mentioned about the satisfaction after crying and releasing, I think that's very human to feel that because anger, sadness, anything, you want to release that emotion. Even if it's negative or positive, you want to release it to the world to feel better after. Because when we start thinking about sadness, we often think that it's better to not really let those emotions in or like get too serious. But we don't realize that if we don't,
Building up.
yeah, like it's building up, and if we don't release it in that moment or a little bit later, it's going to build up to something worse, even, and we don't know. It could build up to anger, anxiety. So, these kinds of things, in my opinion, should be like the way I have a nephew,
Mm-hmm.
bless his heart. Unfortunately, he also grows up with different kinds of parenting methods. And one parenting method is boys don't cry. This is a very common, unfortunately,
Oh,
and
and I
yeah,
has to cry. You need
it,
to do it. You need to do it alone.
they say that. But I think it's very healthy if a small boy manages to cry and release their emotions. And plus, when it comes to a boy who's 4 years old, then they're not able to verbalize all the emotions or all the feelings. So crying is one way. So at what point does it seem wrong for a boy to cry? That's my question. Like, why does it seem emasculating? But it's actually quite masculine to be able to feel every emotion as a man, as a woman, or anyone. Like, to be able to show that you can be both strong, vulnerable, and full of feelings that makes you human. So, yeah, I don't know if it answered to your question or not.
Um, I was going to make a point. Then I'll go back to, because I'm a man, and also I have heard, and I also, to an extent, live up to the principle that as a man, you don't cry,
Mm.
or when you have to cry, you do that in the darkest part of your room where no one sees you. So the first thing I was going to talk about before going there is, sometimes when people allow themselves to be vulnerable because of the satisfaction they might probably feel after being sad or something. Some people don't know where to draw the line, and sometimes you cross to the other side, and it's very difficult to go back.
Can you
Is that
elaborate? Can you elaborate on that, like cross to the other side?
so? For example, you want to process an emotion, a very sad one, and you intentionally drove yourself into processing it, and it gets out of hand, that you don't know how to come out of that situation, then it becomes your reality now.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that during the process of going through these emotions, there would have been a time where you could still control, because you actually drove yourself into it. So at a point you should still be able to drive yourself out of it. However, when you cross the line, okay, sorry, when you cross the line, you might not be able to help yourself out of the situation. Then it becomes like one's reality. Do you think there's a line?
When you start like explaining it like that, I understand where you're coming from.
Hmm.
Um, like one person wallowing or like allowing that sadness to come over
Hmm.
and really just get into that feeling of being sad and then seeing no exit. That can be very difficult, but also I think it's a skill. It's something that you should learn in life. And that's why I think it's also okay to do that to yourself, to be able to get into that sadness and see that there's no way out, but still learn how to get out of it. Because if you're able to, I guess I need a very specific type of an example to that because it can differ in like from situation to situation. For example, let's say someone lost their dog.
Hmm.
They're sad. They're very sad about it, and they should feel sad. Some people might not want to let those emotions get over because they think it will affect other parts of their life. But that thought in itself will affect it because you're keeping in something very important and you need to release it. And let's say there are people who release that negative emotion, they might not want to communicate with anyone. They want to be, closed off to the society and just be alone. And I think that's what you're mentioning,
Yes.
like separating themselves and like disappearing and
Yeah. So, for example, you might be allowed to still wallow about You might be allowed to process the emotion of losing your dog for 2 days, and you are still fine. After 2 days, you might feel okay. Now I've completely mourned this dog.
Hmm.
I need to move on. But some people cross that line.
I have to disagree with this one very heavily
Mm.
because I think grief is so difficult. Grief in itself doesn't have a time limit. I think grief in life in general, you can grieve over this plant. Like, I lost this plant because I couldn't take care of it. It has no like a limit that you're only allowed to grieve over this thing for a set amount of days or something like that. Because if I were to lose something very precious in my life, I would not be able to foresee how long I will grieve that thing or someone. And that in itself is a reminder that we can't control it. We want to control it. We can in some ways, but it might hit us unexpectedly again, that grief, the grief that you thought was over in those 5 days, let's say, but actually might come back in 5 months later saying like, hey, I'm back here. Don't you feel this again? And you do. But then you're like, oh, I couldn't process everything in the beginning. So I let those maybe some small parts of things still linger on because I think in the beginning you should allow yourself a lot of time, a lot of time to grieve over anything, anything, even like losing a job. Some people say like, I will just give a great example. You lost your job? Great. You will find another one. You're such a smart person. You'll be employed in 2 months. But that doesn't do anything about the situation. It's just some logical talk that will make the other person feel like I don't feel supported in that moment. Maybe some people um can't get out of it because they don't have the support system.
Mm.
Maybe they're too alone with their thoughts, and that allows them to be more in that sadness. And I think that's the problem in our society a lot. In today's world, especially, loneliness epidemic is a thing, and a lot of young people suffer from it. While they seem to be connected to other people, they're lonely within themselves.
You're connected over the phone. There's no real life connection anymore. To talk about boys not being allowed to cry. So honestly speaking, I think the society has made men to think like this. So I wouldn't tell any man who is of this ideology that he's wrong.
Mm,
And if I see a man who believes that he needs to process his emotions by being vulnerable in front of everyone, that's not bad. That's not wrong as well. So it only depends on, in my opinion, your environment and your experiences. So, however, the men um, who train other men not to cry publicly, because really men somehow process their emotions as well.
mm,
Sometimes they do it in such a way that the society might really not like it because they become like hyper aggressive eventually, and this is because you have built up emotions that has not been processed. So you release these emotions differently to the society. So either ways, we release these emotions.
exactly.
However, how are we releasing the emotion is the question. But it is safe to say that in whatever case, the society made men like this. You know,
Who made the society? That's the question I'd like to answer. Men. So men,
mankind,
yes,
not men.
okay, mankind. But it's a cycle in a sense, like some rules that came to the common societies um came from a male thinking and how things should be. So oftentimes I feel a lot of pain for the young generation because they're fighting differences, like a different way of thinking, because the older generation is very keen on not allowing men to cry, but the newer generation is saying you should
It's okay.
yeah, it's okay. As you said, like you wouldn't say it's wrong to cry and you wouldn't say you're not allowed to become vulnerable. But I think it's also a question of in front of whom are you vulnerable, because some might take it as a weapon against you.
Yes.
And I think it applies to both like to boys or men. I feel like if you're a man in their, I don't know, 30s, if you cry in front of your loved ones, it would be considered trust. Like it will be considered as trust because you're trusting to release those emotions in front of them. But if you're crying in front of your co-workers, also trust, but it really, some might do something um malicious with it, maybe.
Hmm.
We don't know. So have I cried in front of a coworker? No, but I have cried in front of my students.
Hmm.
And that was a very strong moment for me because I was like, I'm supposed to be professional. I'm supposed to be this. But then I allowed myself to be human. I allowed myself to actually feel the anger that I had because tears sometimes translate differently. For me, tears also come from anger. Not being able to be understood by other people. Not necessarily I'm sad, but why it's a frustration for me as well, the tears. So I think for younger boys to understand that tears isn't like equating I'm sad is also important to know that when you're frustrated, you can cry. When you're angry, you can cry. Not do something wrong in this society. Like some, as you said, some people get aggressive due to their suppressed emotions. Yeah.
And I actually love the way you've put it, especially the part when you said sometimes it's okay to cry, but it depends on in front of whom are you crying. So, and it's okay to express some emotions, but it depends on where are you expressing these emotions. So you've put it in a very beautiful way. So as men, sometimes you cannot afford to be weak, really, because everything,
Do you want to say that crying is a sign of weakness? No.
it might be a sign of weakness, to be honest. And I said in some situations you can't afford to be weak. So for example, there's a situation where there are a lot of people who depends on you, and you're in a situation where it's it's a tough one, right? There are other forces. It could be um life situations. I don't mean actual war now, like life situations that are actually fighting you and whatever relationship you have that depends on you, that's actually trying to like to dip to dip your head down the water.
Hmm.
At that moment, as men, you don't show any sign of weakness. And the way I love to put manhood
Hmm.
or womanhood is not I don't mean the X and Y chromosome
Yeah.
in this case. Sometimes, for example, a man with the XY chromosome, he has his own feminine part. And when I mean feminine part, I mean emotionally. How do you process things? Some men are softer than other men. So some men are more empathic than other women, than other men. And some men and some women are actually more masculine in the sense that maybe life situations or how they grew up has actually boxed them to be able to, like make firm decisions like men do. I'm not saying women don't make firm decisions, but I'm saying um right from inception, men are always left to make these decisions, like to make, but women can do them too. It depends on what what is more pronounced in you. Like, did you train your masculine side, or did you feed your feminine side more than your masculine side?
Um, for me, for a very long time, I tied femininity for to a very specific spiritualness. So, and now I've taken a very different turn on what femininity and masculinity is. And I think by definition, masculinity seems to be like I'm firm, I'm strong, I do logical things, and that's in itself. And femininity is becoming softer and more caring by nature. But I think,
And
yeah,
are men not supposed to be soft?
yeah, exactly.
Good. That's what I'm saying. As XY chromosome carrier, it doesn't mean you are not supposed to be to have this feminism or like femininity in you. And as XX chromosome carrier, there's situations that will require you to be firm, to be protective.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to do it. So these are like, so we have these characters, in my opinion, we have these characters that are feminine in nature, and we have these characters that are masculine in nature. However, the fact that you carry a set of chromosome doesn't mean that you do not possess these characters.
Yeah, and I think for me, in my case, I would say femininity is just um it's a social construct.
Hmm.
Both masculinity and femininity, those terms can be easily mixed into one word, which is becoming a human being. And for me, like I had to come through a lot of different cultural I guess opinions on what femininity and masculinity is to understand it from myself that femininity isn't only being soft, but it also means being logical. Who says women can't be logical, or men being more
Men can be soft.
in touch with their internal emotions, and being able to like in society we see that there's a maternal leave,
Hmm.
but it can be also like a paternal leave, like
In this country, there's paternal leave.
yes.
Very good.
Great.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the term in itself as well, it says that it's tied to femininity, or it's tied to women, but it can be easily tied to a man as well. Like there are many men who would love to spend a lot of time with their children or baby, and it's just changing the narrative or changing the definition and this new age, and trying to understand where we are, because a lot of people might be confused about. I have a friend who said that by nature she feels very feminine, but there's like a masculine side also that comes out when she is not feeling safe. So that's a very interesting concept, that when she feels safe, she would be feeling more feminine and more vulnerable in that sense. And when she feels more threatened or like anxious, she would take over the masculine side, meaning she would be more protective.
Short puts everything together. I was going to say that as a man, it's okay to process your emotions and know when and where to process your emotions, because either ways you're going to let out the emotions. So you might not want to cry in front of a set of people, and it's okay to cry in front of a set of people. For example, you can cry to a fellow man. I don't know. Some fellow men would see you as you, you are crying, you're not serious. But we need to be more gentle with ourselves as well, because either ways the emotions are always let out.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It might.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just thinking like it will open up another door within that friendship as well. Like if two men are able to process emotions together, that will lead to a healthier connection between them, and even between other people that, let's say, this person feels connected to. Let's say if you're able to cry in front of your male friend,
Mhm.
then your connections with other people in your life will be a lot healthier because you're not processing every emotion to your child or to your wife or to your parent. You're able to process it with your close friends as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Honestly speaking, this conversation has enriched me.
Mm.
It made me really humbled, to be honest. I was really humbled. And thank you so much for
You.
I think I need to process these emotions and then have a second talk with you. Yeah. So but thank you so much for spending your time with us here today. And thank you for enriching me and sharing your idea. And they're really insightful. And I'll gracefully carry them on with me.
That's beautiful.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
my aim was to come here to talk about something that has affected me, and with that, I can maybe help you understand people better as well.
You're successful.
I feel that I'm able to now talk about it freely, and that in itself is a happiness, I suppose, and I feel good about it.
And all the times we've met in person, you're always happy. You look bright all the time and happy. And yes, so I wouldn't have guessed. Yes. So it's true that you can live with that and still be happy. And by the way, maybe just to tell my audience that this plant is I think about 3 or 4 years old now. And you actually gifted my wife this plant some 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago. And it's an integral part of Selfish. This was also a gift from a friend. And the reason why I carried this plant with me, I I traveled to Finland last week to shoot an episode, and I brought this plant with me because it was given to me at the point when I decided to start something new. It had just 2 flowers then, and I just wanted to be a part of my journey, the journey to wisdom. So thank you so much.
And I believe that it will grow long and long.
Hopefully,
I think, yeah.
hopefully, some few days ago I changed the pot and replanted it, and hopefully it doesn't die.
Does it have a name as well? Or you don't name plants? I often do, that's why.
Okay, maybe you should. Do you mind giving a name?
I'm lost. Let's name it Noor.
Noor. Thank you so much. Okay, good. Noor. That's a very special name to me, by the way.
It is very
Thank you.
special.
So it's this plant is named Noor now.
Yeah.
Actually, this plant died some. The reason why I'm claiming this plant is because you gave it to her
Yeah,
and it died,
unfortunately.
and I resuscitated it, so it's become mine since then. Yeah.
It looks a lot healthier. I noticed the new leaves are.
Yes, yes. Inshallah, today I'll change the pot because the roots has outgrown the pot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Spring season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much
Thank
again.
you.
Yeah, thank you
Bye.
for being a part of this.
Lovely conversation.
Thank you so much. So hopefully we talk next time.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.